Okay. Okay, now we are recording.
I think Abraham went to America.
It's possible.
Lewis, I don't know.
I have no idea. I called him last week and there was no answer. So
Hillel.
Hillel is here. Oh, just moved
He moved.
yesterday. They moved an apartment. So, okay, good evening. Welcome to Likutey Moharan, Torah Memtes, Shir and Breslov the Shul. So, we were talking about the basic principle of elevating the Malchus to the Bina. And the Rebbe now looks at it from a different angle. And he says, L'shemish sam oil behem. That pasuk. Because the tzaddik is called Shemesh. As Chazal said, At shaloshak o shimshor shel Eli. Before the sunset of the son of Elia Cohen, Zor Chashimshoy shel Shmuel Ramasi. There was a sunrise of the son of Shmuel Hanavi. So you see that the tzaddikim are called sun. So it says V'zorach Hashemesh Uva Hashemesh. It's a principle. Chazal said that Elia Cohen passed away. Amen. Elia Cohen passed away. Shimshon Shmuel Hanavi was already there. It is based on the pasuk V'zorach Hashemesh Uva Hashemesh. The sun rises and the sun sets. So L'chuva, what are you telling us? We know the sun rises. We know the sun sets. I mean, duh, right? So that says no. That means that before the sun, before a tzaddik passes away, there's another tzaddik there to replace him, to take his place. So that's we see here. The tzaddik is called sun. Okay, so this is what is richas? What is this? The shining of the sun. What is the rising of the sun of the tzaddik? What does it mean? The rising of the sun is zricha. He says, "Hayinu asagosoi." This is the asog of the tzaddik. The tzaddik sometimes is in the gadlus, in expanded consciousness, and he has great asagas. As this is what we said last week. And sometimes the tzaddik is mechan the katnus, that he is. I mean, the asagas are there, but the tzaddik is blocked from it. He says the thing that that determines whether the tzaddik is going to be, is going to have an open shutter or closed shutter, is the behavior from Israel. And Rebbe brings a proof that Kadosh Baruch Hu tells the Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai to be Makabel the Torah. Am Yisrael made the Egel. Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Lech red kishichas amcha. Go down from the mountain. Why? Because your nation have sinned. They have strayed. So what's his fault? Why is it Moshe's fault? Because the people did sin. Moshe didn't sin.
Your nation.
Yeah, but so he says, what is your nation?
Yeah.
So because the Medrash says the only reason I'm giving you all these tremendous hasagas is for Am Yisrael. If Am Yisrael, are not doing what they need to do, then you have to go down. Oil bahem. Oil is lashon zricho. Oil is like a hallow. It's a hila. Is a hallow. This is oil. Behiloi ala neiroi. Bahem. Behiloi. When the tzaddik has the glow, where he has the hallow, where he has the big asoga bahem in Am Yisrael. When Am Yisrael is behaving properly, then he has it. If they're not, then it's been taken away from him. Because the asoga of the tzaddik is the bina Eloah. That's the base Eloah that we were talking about all the time. And the asoga of Am Yisrael is basis of Torah. That's the lower house. That's the malchus, right? When Am Yisrael rectified the malchus, when they fixed the malchus, when they elevated, that causes elevation by Elyon to the bina. And Israel chas v'shon nechasim b'chochmas chitzoniya shel ha'umos, but when Am Yisrael, they decide they're going into high tech. They're deciding into stupid thoughts, into bad thoughts. It's Eretz Halev. What they do is they damage the wisdom inside the heart. And they're not zoicha to peulos tevis. They don't do good deeds. Mimela, they're not zoicha to reveal the malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but they damage malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Azai noifel tzaddik masagosei. This is when the tzaddik falls off his asoga. V'nischape v'niskase asagosei. That asoga of the tzaddik is being screened. It's being covered. And this is when Am Yisrael are exiting the chochmas of the umos. Azai v'hu kechoson yitzeh mechuposo. Then he is like a bridegroom that comes out of the chuppah. The chuppah is, we're in a choson, the wedding. Okay, so we're used to that. But chuppah also means that it is covered. It's choife. It's a tzipui. It's a covering. So azai v'hu kechoson yoytzeh mechuposo. Then the tzaddik comes out of the chuppah. He comes out of the covering. It comes out of that screen that blocked him from getting his asaga. It had happened until now. Then he would rejoice like a gibor to run a great length. Because the tzaddikim are called giborim, the tzaddikim are called the mighty, giborei koach osed dvoroi, ulishma b'kol dvoroi. And now, the tzarch is gabrus. Now they need they mighty. Usually we say, tzaddik, what is a tzaddik? A tzaddik is somebody who's an honor, right? He's a meek, is humble. Now we're referring to tzaddikim as mighty. Why is Rabbeinu using that particular this as mighty? Kitzarach is gabrus kedelorotz orach zeh shochan leilech bezman hazeh sheyisrael mezufim. Because there is a need now, while Am Yisrael were in a bad state. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. The tzaddik did not have the asogos that he was supposed to have. But the world keeps on moving. The world doesn't stop just because the tzaddik doesn't have the asaga. Am Yisrael are not behaving properly. The tzaddik doesn't have the asaga. Mimela, he cannot do the work that he needs to do. But reality keeps on moving, right? The world keeps on moving. So now, when Am Yisrael are doing tshuva, when they get out of the chochmas hagoyim, the tzaddik gets back the motion. Now he has to hurry. Now he has to really hustle to cover up all that avodah that he was supposed to do while it was dark, while he didn't have that asaga. So now he has to hurry. He has to make up for lost time. Now they are running quickly. They're covering quickly that distance. They're doing the avodah they were supposed to do. And that overcoming, that extra effort of the tzaddikim The Bchinas Tzitzis, that is the Bechina of Tzitzis, a Bchinas Tcheles, Bchinas Makifin. We said that that's the Gvurois, that the Malchus itself, if you remember, I kept on giving you this mashal that the Malchus has the police force. It has the power of enforcing, the power of dinim. It's called Dina de Malchus Dina. The judgments of the Malchus is judgment. The Malchus is that apparatus that enables ultimately the Moichin to enforce their rule. Any Malchus, any country that loses the capacity to enforce their rule, they don't rule anymore. They lose the Malchus. So the Malchus has the tool of enforcement. That's the power of enforcement. Now, but that power of enforcement needs to be under the supervision of the Bina Eloah. The Bina Eloah is the place where judgment is not, just brutal force, but judgment is actually something that is formulated in order to be able to lead the land, right? When the police is under the right and correct command of a wise commander, what happens is that peace is being kept. You need the gvurois of the Malchus, the blunt force of the Malchus to keep peace, because otherwise people will go wild. These gvuros of the Malchus, left to their own device, ends up as police brutality. So those gvuros have to be the tzitzis. Tzitzis is tcheles. It's called tcheles. It's called the achli kola, the shatzi kola. Tcheles is a sekala bagoyim. I'm going to finish them off. Tcheles is the thing that eradicates, that really chops off, that destroys. It's a great power. That's where the tcheles is. That's what the Malchus has. The tcheles and the chalim shotzim the akum. This is the tcheles that when it's used properly, it eradicates, the Rishonim, the goyim that are against the Kodesh Baruch Hu, against the Yidden. There is nobody that is safe from the wrath of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Mechamosai, the wrath. Epchinos kalo. This is the Malchus. Finish them off with wrath. Finish them off, says David HaMelech, and they will be gone. And the goyim will be gone. The Rishonim will be gone. That's the Malchus that eradicates the goyim. And when you elevate the Malchus to the Bina, in Zoichin la Sogas Oraiso de Atiko, we said this is Oinik Shabbos. We said that ultimately, when the Malchus is being elevated, it's not just that the Malchus starts, gains in stature that's connected just to the Bina. The Bina itself is being elevated. Now the Asaga is much higher. The Asaga of the Bina is much higher. We explained that there is a Torah that is beyond, it's the shirish of the Torah that we have today. What we know today, the Torah we have today, is just the leftovers of the real Torah, of the entire Torah. Because most of the Torah is not revealed yet. Because we explained last week, the light of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, which is the Torah, of course, is Mimala Kol Almin, and fills reality. And it's also Sovev Kol Almin, also surrounds reality. It's beyond reality. Everything which is inside reality, this is us, this is the Malachim, this is the Srafim, that's the Torah, the Asogos of today. Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted us, that's the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down from Al Sinai, from 49 gates of Bina, right? Now, but the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be able to get beyond that, the light of Sovev Kalamin. So we'll be closer to him. He doesn't have to hide himself in reality, but there's a dilemma here. There's a paradox. If you are exposed to the light of a Kadosh Baruch Hu without any kind of armor, any kind of shield, you stop existing. Kadosh Baruch Hu is everything, and you become included in Ein Sof. So for this, as we explained last week, you need quote unquote a spaceship. You need a shield that will enable us to watch the light of Kadosh Baruch Hu without any levushing, the way it really is, and still retain our own independent existence. They say that when they made the first nuclear test during the Second World War in New Mexico, and so they had two bombs. They had one of them made of uranium, and they had another one that made of plutonium. That's all. They invested huge amount of money, unbelievable effort, and this mountain of the called Manhattan Project gave birth to two little mice, lethal mice. Yeah, one was uranium. That's what they were able to do, and plutonium. The uranium, they knew that it's going to work. The plutonium, they weren't that sure, because there was a touchy stuff. So they had to make a test first. So they tested it, the very famous test in New Mexico. This is where the whole thing took place, in New Mexico. Yeah, no, that's the plutonium. They had to make detonate plutonium to see if it works. They didn't know what's going to happen. If they when they put a mass, critical mass of plutonium, what's going to happen? Is it going to set the entire atmosphere on fire, or is it just going to fizzle and do nothing? They didn't know. So they stood 25 miles away. There was a tower where this whole thing was taking place, the plutonium device, and all the scientists and the generals, whatever it is, they stood 25 miles away, and they wore special shields on their eyes. And the test went through, and it was successful, obviously, as we know. That's the bomb that they dropped on Nagasaki. It was a plutonium job. No, because that's all they had. The uranium they dropped on Hiroshima. That's it. They didn't have another bomb. The only other bomb they had was from plutonium. They had plutonium. And that worked too. But in the test, when they made the test, they had these special visors so they could see it without getting blind. And you see the sun from a much further distance. So it was at night, and when they saw the light, it was so strong, it was so shocking. Actually, they fell on their faces from the shock. But nevertheless, 25 miles away, they still needed this kind of really, really dark, almost opaque visor, so they can see the light of a nuclear explosion. And by the time they were able to actually, get up and look at it, it already, the mushroom already went up many, many miles into the atmosphere. So this is just, the primordial ash of creation. The Kadosh Baruch Hu himself, the light of Kadosh Baruch Hu. How can you? So you need to have that shield. You have to be in a very, very safe environment that you're able to be exposed to himself. That special shield, that special chase, you can call it spaceship, you can call it a shelter, you can call it whatever you want, is the Bina Ilah. That's the Bina. We are preparing. People said you're in America. Okay. The people made mistake. Anyhow, say the Gomer. So this is what we're able to get when we build that spaceship of the Bina Elah. We are perfecting it now. We are working. Every time that we are elevating the Malchus, we are also perfecting the Bina Elah. We're perfecting that tool that will enable us to learn the Torah that will learn in the future. So this kind of Torah is called Torah, the Oraiso, the Atikos Timah. That's the rest of the Atiko, that's which is beyond reality now. And it is totally concealed. This is called Oinik Shabbos. Oilam Haba is called Oinik Shabbos. That pleasure of that Torah, of basking in the glow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is the highest pleasure that there is. And this is that Torah is Hashem Tmimo, the Torah is Atiko, Shadan Tmimo, it's still complete, it wasn't even touched. Shadan lo sigum en aklum, Meshivas Nefesh. What is Meshivas Nefesh? She says the Lashon Shabbos. Meshivas, you have the word Shabbos, Meshivas, Shin based off of Shabbos. Kivo Shabbos v'inofash. The Osid Lovo, and it's going to be a day which is Kuloi Shabbos. The whole thing is going to be Shabbos, one big Shabbos. And then a Asog is Oinik Shabbos. Now Rabbeinu is taking that whole principle that we've explained many times over, and he explains a few reasons of certain minhagim that take place during a chasana. That's the reason why the kala, or the father of the kala, buys a talis for the chasan. The kala is sending her bridegroom in new talis, as we know. Ki atzadik, who is the chasan, mekabel gvurasa of the Israel. He gets his gvura, he gets his koyach from Am Yisrael. As we said before, the Akala is alluding to the Bechina of the Malchus, and the Chasan alludes to the Bechina of the Tzaddik. The Talis is Remetutzitzis. That's the Gvuris, the Tchelis, the Makifim. That's this garment that the Tzaddik has when he gets in the Bino, and he gets the Gvura from the Malchus. It's also Shorim Allah ala Chasan. There is something which is called Allah on a Chasan. I'm not sure what it is. It says, why do you say Allah on the Chasan? It says the name Allah al Shem Hiha Oilo. She is the one that ascends and goes up. The Aliyah of the Malchus. Ki Simcha is in the heart. And when through the Simcha, which is in the heart, you fix and you elevate the spheres Abina, which is the heart, and then the Malchus goes together with it. If you remember, we said that the ascension of the Malchus and the Bina is a process that takes place at the same time. Mi is the Bina. If you remember, it's why Mi is the Bina. Because the Bina has 50 gates of Bina, right? And the Gematria of Mi is 50. So Mi refers to the Bina. Zeus is the Malchus. So me in Zois Oilo. So me is the Bina together with Zois, this is elevates. Now, the Zmiras that they're singing on the Chasana, Zehei, they say there was the Malchus, as we said, what is a Hey? This entire Torah we're talking about, we have a Dalid, the Malchus is a Dalid, because it's poor. Dalid is from Dolovania, and we have to turn it into a Hey. Dalid alone is just a police force without a smart commander. That's a Dalid. You have, in order to make it an efficient law enforcement apparatus, we have to connect it to a good command. The Seichel is the Yud. We said many times, it's the Chochmah, the Eine Chochmah, that's the Tensifirot. So what is a Hey? A Hey is made out of a Dalid with the Yud inside. It means when the Dalid, which is the law enforcement, that's the one that has the ability to enforce things. Is made out of Dalid and Yud, and this together, the Dalid and Yud, with a sheer pashut kofel meshulush and meruba, as we said before. One of the most incredible things, we'll just say that the Zmirs that we're singing on the Chassan is because the Dalit, the Kala was the Malchus, it got now the Yud, it got the Chassan, it became a Hey. And we said that when you're Zoichet to that, you're Zoichet to that Shir Poshul Kofel Misholosh Meruba. That is the song, a simple, double, triple, and quadruple song. Now, we said, what's it got to do with Yud? He says, if you take one, simple, double plus two, that's three, right? Plus three, that makes six. Quadruple, that's four, it makes together 10. This is 10 Mine Negina. And so these are the songs that are singing by Chasana, that they are remez, that La'asid Lovo in the future, that's the song that will come down from Shemayim, because it's to the Simcha that you elevate the Bino and the Malchus, because the Aliyah of the Malchus of the Chachma, that's the Yud that's the song that comes La'asid Lovo. Now we see this Indian, this really marvelous thing, this of song. And it's really hard to understand. What does song have anything to do with it? Right? You explain Malchus, fine. Bina, fine. Connect to the Malchus to the Seichel, fine. What does the song come about? Why is it tied together to a song? Same thing, in Torah Resh Pei Beis, right? Since in the Kudas Tovis, you find good points in you, or Torah RPB, the famous Reish Pei Beis, you find the Kudas Tovis in everybody, good points in everybody, good points in yourself. And then the Rebbe says, and with this, you are making Azamra L'Elokai Be'oidi. I will sing to Kadosh Baruch Hu with the Od Ma'atov, this Nekuda Torah that we have. And it's difficult to understand, what is it got to do with the melody? What is it got to do with music? I heard something really marvelous about this. Rabbeinu says that in a few places, it says every Emunah has a song. And he says, in the Osilova, he says, Tavoi Tashuri Mirosh Emunah. You'll come singing from the head of Emunah. In other words, that's the song of the highest Emunah. And he says, even the Goyim, every Emunah has its own song. Every faith has its own melodies and its own song. I mean, you go next to an Arab village, you go, they're singing from there. So that's their song. Okay, so what can you do? And they all have their own. I mean, this is not only this. It's not only this. He says every chokhmah has its own song. in Sipurei Maisius, then we say that what is the beggar that is mute, and it says, you think that I'm mute? I'm not mute at all. He says, but I'm not interested in all the diburim that the world uses. I mean, is Bennett the prime minister, or Shmenet is the prime minister, or Shamenet is the prime minister? It has not to do with anything. These diburim, I'm not interested. I'm only interested in diburim. And he says, and I'm the one that throws the diburim from, of the birds from one place, two birds that are singing to one another, and I'm connecting them. The music of a thing, every chokhmah comes from the song of that chokhmah. Every emunah has the melody. That when you hear that melody, you're connected to that emunah. You're connected to that chokhmah. It's a wondrous thing. It's a wondrous thing. Rebbe says, there's a shiras hasavim, that we see that there's not a single blade of grass, says the Gemara. It doesn't have an angel that sings to it and tells it to grow. So you see that the singing, the melody, is the mode of communication through which the Malachim give life to this world, give Chokhmah to this world, give Emunah to this world. Melody is an extremely, extremely high thing. That's why that wisdom, the Chokhmah, which is the Yud, represents the 10 types of Mina Nagina, of types of music, that it contains all the different kinds of music that there is. It's a music de Kedusha. It's a moyedic thing. Before we just continue with this, there's something very interesting. The Rebbe speaks here about when Am Yisrael goes out of the Chochmas of the Goyim. When they go into the Chochmas of the Goyim, what happens is that the tzaddik loses sight of his asagas, his attainments, the kind of asaga the tzaddik has. When they leave this Chochmas, the tzaddik gets that asagas back. This explains something which is very, very difficult for Fry people to understand. For secular people, they can't understand. Why don't Haredim go to work? Why don't they go to the army? These are things that they're not able to understand. Why do you have Hasidish, whatever it is, that decide they don't want to be inoculated? Well, they don't know what's going on. And I heard a more insight into this. Am Yisrael, throughout history, is always dying out. There's only a very small minority that keeps on going. And the minority that keeps on going is the minority that keeps itself separated from the Goyim. Am Yisrael in Mitzrayim, 20% came out. We say, Chamushim Yisrael, we know the Gemara says 20%. Some say only 5%. And who came out? All those that didn't change their names, their lavush, and their language. These are the ones that went out of Mitzrayim. All those that stayed in Mitzrayim and died in Makas Choshech are those that decided that they want to get involved with the Egyptian politics, the Egyptian, way of life, making Egyptians movies, and, get involved with Egyptian high tech, join the Egyptian army, whatever it is, that when you look at the face of it, what's wrong with that? I mean, it's like, you have to eat, right? I mean, those who kept themselves separated are those that survived. That kept on happening again and again and again throughout history. It's happening now also in America. The vast majority of Judaism in America is disappearing. 70%. Yeah, it's disappearing. And even from those 70%, those 30% that are left gave us how many are actually Jews and what the remain Jews, whatever. Am Yisrael is constantly being decimated. The only ones that continue to exist are those that separate themselves from the Goyim. So when they try to come to people and say, go to work in high tech, go to work in government offices, go to work in whatever it is and there's a resistance. It used to be 45%, 12 years ago. It went up to 52%. I did not move any higher than that. Did not increase over 52% of Haredi men going out to work outside their own area, their own community. It increased from 45 to 52%. Yeah, it used to be 45. And then there was a big thing into high-tech, Haredim, into high-tech, whatever it is, it increased to 52. And for 10 years, did not go up. It got stuck there. The same thing is with this Indian of the vaccinations and everything else. The idea is there's a price. You can agree with it or disagree with it. That has nothing to do with something it's beyond my pay grade to decide one way or another. But the Nakuda is that they say you got to keep separated from the Goyim, separate from what they say that you need to do, separate whatever it is. If they say vaccinated or not vaccinated, whatever it is, just people might chas v'chalila get sick and people did die, obviously. First of all, they found their own solution. They have their own organizations, whatever it is, and they did it with oxygenators and all kinds of stuff that they did. But the point is that it's even more serious than that. When a person goes to war, when a commander or a ruler, prime minister, whatever it is, goes to war, he knows that some people will die. There will be victims. Nevertheless, when he decides that this is what they should do, he makes the decision to go to war, even though he knows that there will be casualties. And that was the decision carries a price with it. But the price that they're looking at is that they're not going to work. It's not that they're not working at all. We all know that we're all working, but it's not that they're not going outside to work. They're not getting involved with the people from the outside. And the reason they do it is because they want to save the future of Am Yisrael. Because Am Yisrael is saved not by getting Nobel Prizes, but by staying away from Chochmas HaGoyim. Okay, so I'll go in the supermarket, I'll do mishlochim, I'll be a cashier in the supermarket. Or, whatever it is, I work with this, yes. And you wonder, like, what's the big deal? Why don't they, they offer them, academies and become, high-tech this and high-tech that. You'll make much more money than you're making now. Yeah, the salaries in high-tech are way beyond, what you can get, I don't know, doing whatever it is that you're doing in your neighborhood. But Amisrael says, I'm not interested. I'm not interested because I don't want to get involved. I want to keep myself separate. Even now, I'm happen to go through the Zer in Parshas Balak. Bilam says, Am levada yishkoin. It's a nation that resides all alone. Uvagoyim leis chashel. He doesn't consider the goyim. He's not interested in what the goyim think. It doesn't make a difference what they think. You have to be in touch with them because you have to take care of the Jewish people. And all right. So you designate specific people. These people are going to be a member of Knesset. These people are going to be, like in Poland, they used to have the same. You have the Polish parliament. So they had Haredi representatives that went and were member of the same, of the Polish parliament. That's something else. You need to have people to take care of the interests of the Jewish people. But the Jewish people belong in elevating the Malchus. Ravina says, you get out of Goyshe Chochmas, get out of there, the tzaddik gets is a saga. You elevate the Malchus, you elevate the Bina Eloah as well. Mitzvah Hashem, hopefully, we will continue Mitzvah Hashem next week. And we finished the Torah. I don't know if we'll be able to. There's some surface, some additions that but we should be able to almost Mitzvah Hashem finish what we have started next week. Torah Memtes, the Torah of the main thing that it all comes down to is control yourself with your excitement. Don't go overboard, and make sure that you don't harbor bad thoughts. Because bad thoughts ruin that space in your heart. You need to have, when you're saying you're not running, burning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all your might, you have to keep things under control. But the same thing, you're having space. You're having a certain kind of breathing room to grow. And the growth is by having good thoughts. That's the thing that elevates, that creates the meters, that creates the machshavas. The worst thing that a Jew can do is entertain thoughts. You go in the street, you see things, specifically now, as was Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, we know that Tammuz and Av, as Sefer Yetzirah says, that every month of the year is parallel to a certain limb, certain organ. So Tammuz is the right eye, and Av is the left eye. This is why we have the Sefer Yetzirah. This is why this is the summer, and women are walking practically naked. I mean, not here, but And that's the month we are supposed to guard the eyes, because when the eyes are open, everything comes in. Everything comes in, everything goes to the heart. Goes to the heart, it corrupts the heart. The main thing is the Shmir Sinai. Shmir Sinai, this is the way that you can block off the majority of the I went to buy it has nothing to do with anything, but I had to go in Yerushalayim to an art store to buy some supplies that I needed for a certain project. And I went to an art school. I went to art school in Yerushalayim, Mount Scopius. And I went there and I went through the foyer, and there were girl students there. You couldn't possibly look. And the whole thing was smoked up with, like you could cut the smell of marijuana within outside, it's just like in the school, and it's not like they're like hiding anything. They were in the entrance, just sitting there, prehistoric over, whatever it is. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. In the winter, it's hard enough. In the summer, Shemilach. So that Lemaise, with all these tremendous Seides that we're learning, the Malchus, how it goes up, and the Bino, and the Teretz Stimo, the mainly with the Kabbalah is going to be lost in Lovoi. All this thing, everything has to be boiled down to its essential. The essential is guard your thoughts. Think good thoughts, push away bad thoughts. Don't project yourself movies in your mind. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I don't care if you're 95. Just don't do it. As they said, there's literally hell to pay, right? And for whatever it is that we do, everything is lemaisa, everything is forever, everything is Shem Yazor B'ezat Hashem. Shall have a good chodesh. Tammuz and Av are never an easy time, but this is the thing that Zat Hashem prepares us, Zat Hashem for Rosh Hashanah. Hashem should help us, Zat Hashem, that we'll have a great month. Everybody, Zat Hashem, should enjoy great health and Parnasa B'Nekel. And B'ezat Hashem, we start our preparation Rosh Hashanah. B'ezat Hashem, we should be zoche to be in Rosh Hashanah in Oman in B'ezat Hashem. It's possible. It's not that. I understand the war. I don't know much about what's going on there, but I understand that the war is not happening there. It's happening in the east, right? What?
Shot missiles like 500 miles away.
From where?
From a few places, from the Black Sea
and we just
200 miles.
Okay, we will.
It's amazing using women to